When I started this podcast, I told myself to go into everything that comes with it with an open mind. Now, I need to start this by saying that I've only played one cover song 2 times in all of the time I've played the drums. That's it. It was just not part of me. I always went for the originals because that was the most challenging part for me, and that was just my mentality. I do play covers or songs that I think I'm covering to practice and warm up, but that is it. I've never played it as show material. When Wayne Hamilton contacted me, I jumped at the chance to talk to him because there were a couple things that I wanted to learn and I wanted to talk about. One of the things is I know of his trouble with people trying to drag him down, and we don't need that. It was just bad form on the person's part, and he got through it, and that's amazing. But it was really, it got to me, and it was terrible because that's our music scene. People are trying to tear this guy down for having an idea that could be fun and make a lot of people happy and entertain many, many people. The second reason is because he's starting a Meat Loaf tribute band. Yes, Meat Loaf. A tribute band to Meat Loaf. I saw that and instantly had a smile on my face. I could instantly see how much fun he could have with this and how much everybody else could have fun because of him having fun with this. It just seems like a great idea, and it just seems like something to be really fun and something that would be an awesome thing to be a part of. Wayne explained the difference between a cover band and a tribute band. He also explains the choice of Meat Loaf as the project. And now, let's get to Wayne and talk to him about his Meat Loaf tribute band because he is awesome and I really, really want to see him go forward with this. And we're here with Wayne Hamilton. How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. That's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, you contacted me a few hours back and asked if I wanted to do an interview with you because you're trying to put together a tribute act.
That is correct.
Firstly, I'd really like to know how you got into music. Any highlights from your career if you want to go into those, and I would really like to know what got you on the path to get you to want to do a tribute act.
Well, I'll see if I can be brief about it because my story is a little different from most people. I turned 40 this year, and I've been singing roughly for about 37 years. I started, believe it or not, in country music. My mother was a performer. She was actually the top Dolly Parton lookalike entertainer in the world for 14 years or so. And that's how I got my start on stage with her, was doing old Dolly Parton and Porter Wagner duets. I got introduced to various styles of music throughout my life. So music more or less runs in my blood. And it seemed not only like the most natural thing for me to do, but it's also the thing that I love to do the most. At this point, I really, I've had other jobs and things, but out of everything I've ever done, music has proven to be the biggest factor in my life that has also proven to be the most influential.
Yeah, I completely understand. It seems like every time I make a decision, it's usually based around music or what's best for me doing something in music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's bad sometimes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you have to be careful because when you have one passion that kind of overrides your other interests, Sometimes it takes you in directions that you're not sure that you would normally go, and not a lot of people understand that. One thing in my life I'm very blessed about is to have a wife that saw some of my reemergences into the music scene, and once she got it, then she's been very supportive. So I'm thoroughly appreciative of that.
Yeah, I actually talked to this about this with a couple other guys. Having a wife that supports you and unconditionally is pivotal, especially in a music industry or being an artist or something. I mean, it just helps out so much, and to have a lady that actually understands that is well, like you said, a blessing.
Oh, it's more than people realize. People that are single, that are not married, they just have a girlfriend or whatever. Sometimes they don't understand a lot of the intricacies that are involved, a lot of the hard work that goes into the practices and the travel. And a lot of people don't understand that music is not just like a job where you go to McDonald's or Burger King or wherever and do your normal 8 hours, you come home, and that's that.
Yeah.
Music is something that you not only do as a quote-unquote job, but all of the best musicians that I've found in my life, it's more than something they do. It's something that they feel. If you don't feel the music, all you do is get up and just kind of twang out notes, and almost anybody can do that.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's really... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no worries. And in my case, not only do I have, a wife, but I also have a child that sees me as a role model. I've been, thoroughly involved in her life from the hour that she was born. And she has told me in no uncertain terms that she sees me as one of her biggest role models. So that puts an added responsibility on me, not just to, share my gifts, with her and with the world, but it's also something that where I have to show her the right way to do it, not just, how to, how to sing the notes or how to play the notes or whatever, but also to keep in mind the content of music that she listens to.
Yeah.
So, for me to tell her, to listen to one thing, and if I were to do something different, that would be very hypocritical of me, and that's something I can't stand.
So, is your daughter musically inclined too?
She wants to learn how to sing. She's been studying piano for a few years. She studied violin for 1 year, and it said she has some very remarkable talents, not only in playing, but she's also experimenting with songwriting too.
Oh, nice.
Which is not bad for a 14-year-old.
Oh, songwriting is incredible. Start 'em early, man. It gets all the trouble out of the way quick.
There you go.
Yeah. So you started out. You also told me in the messages that you were in a band that was local for about 30 years. Can you go into that?
Well, I wasn't in the band for 30 years. The band was local, and they were around for roughly 30 years.
Okay.
When I first moved to Fresno, there was a group that was looking to replace the lead singer. The group was called Steelgrave, and their lead singer, for whatever reason, they had taken a hiatus. They got back together, but the lead singer wasn't as committed as she had been before, and they were looking for someone who was able to give more time, more the effort, and they held some auditions. I happened to get a hold of the bass player, Sid Dodd, and after my audition, he calls me up about a few days later, and I was not at home. My wife took the call, and she said he sounded kind of like a little boy wanting, somebody to come out to play. So that's how it was described, and that's one of the coolest feelings ever. So yeah. I got in touch, and I was with them for roughly 2 years or so. The last 2 years they were around.
Nice. And Sid went on to form Heavyfoot, right?
Yes. Sid went
Yes.
on to form Heavyfoot. He was in some other bands also. There was Tres Hombres, which was like a blues type group.
I believe they're still doing something. If I heard them correctly, they were still doing something with Tres Hombres.
Tres Hombres, I don't know, but I know that different members from Tres Hombres are also in Heavyfoot,
Yeah.
and Heavyfoot's just been going strong, and I'm glad to see that Sid had that success. You know, Sid is one of those guys that I think he's probably happiest when he's playing music. It doesn't matter what kind of a mood he's in. He would be somebody that would probably skip his own funeral to play at a gig.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's how you know when you really got it.
Yeah, he's a good guy,
I'm glad
man.
to see that he's got that.
Yeah, he deserves everything that they've got. They were really, really nice, really cordial, and they were really awesome when I interviewed them. So it was.
Oh
awesome.
yeah, definitely.
All right, man. So from there, what did you do after Grave? Sorry.
Yeah, after Steelgrave disbanded, then I got involved with a couple of other groups. There was an '80s tribute group, actually '80s probably group, whatever, called Max Headroom, and I was their original lead singer. I was with them for I think a year and a half, and '80s is my favorite style of genre of music. I'm not going to lie about that. You know,
All right.
I'm a child of the '80s. I never officially left, so there was a lot of fun times with that band. When I left, it was because there was a little bit of difference with artistic license, but I left the band on good terms. And every once in a while, when their new lead singer can't make a gig for whatever reason, they will call me, and I will be happy to sub in.
Oh, nice.
So because even with all of the new music that they've learned since my departure, it takes me just a day or two, and boom, I can pull it off.
All right. So that being said, you're a product of the '80s, as you mentioned. So okay. Favorite '80s band, favorite '80s album, single, any other little tidbits from the '80s that you want to share?
Well, let's see. As far as a group goes, my all-time favorite group is The Tubes. Most people only know the song "She's a Beauty" by them, but they were, they've had a lot of other hits. White Punk's on Dope.
And who was that again?
The Tubes.
The Tubes.
Yes, their
Okay.
their front man is Fee Waybill.
Okay.
And I actually had the honor of meeting the group twice.
Nice.
Back 2002 and 2007. They were playing in the town where I was living at the time, a little town called Oroville, over at the casinos that they got there. And I had a chance to meet them, and I kept a little bit of correspondence with Fee for about a year or so. And it was like a dream come true, a childhood dream come true.
Nice. Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
That's really awesome.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Hey, you don't
I've
get that. You hardly ever get to be able to do that. So that's pretty cool, man.
Oh yeah, and since that time, I've also been able to establish a little bit of correspondence with other artists like Eddie Money, Gary Wright.
Oh, really, Eddie Money?
Oh yeah,
Oh.
yeah, he was a regular going through also. And unfortunately, the correspondence that I had with him and with Gary Wright and a few others was about the same time when I was trying to get back into the music scene, and I got the same advice basically from everybody. I tried to get demo CDs to them, and they were like, well, I don't know if I'm going to be in town long enough. And Gary Wright was the one that really kind of set the tone straight for me.
Okay.
His email told me, it doesn't really matter what I think or what anybody else thinks. It's what you think. So if you think you're good enough, go for it. I encourage it. But the kind of the hidden message with that is you're going to have to do everything yourself. There's not going to be anybody there really to help you.
Yeah.
And that's something that a lot of people today, I think, the more they hear it, the more that they really don't like to hear that. But it's so true, because hardly, maybe 10% of all of the acts have been at the right place at the right time to get that break.
Yeah.
So everybody else has had to pull themselves up by the bootstraps. And, when you've been paying dues, 20, 25, 30 years, it gets harder and harder to hear, but at the same time, the truth of it.
Yeah, I started playing around shows here in Tulare and Visalia. I started that in about 2006, and one of the first bigger bands from the area that I talked to was called Low Crawl. And they've since become really good friends of mine, but on multiple occasions, the singer, Nate, he would tell me, don't wait for anybody to see you. You have to make them see you. And basically, he was telling me, you make the shows. You do it on your own, because nobody's actually going to help you. You've got to make them look at you.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I've been under that impression ever since, and it's worked out for the bands that I've been in. I've got to do some really amazing things, but it's still really hard to hear that it's going to be a very long road for something you love that much.
Well, and another thing that a lot of people don't realize is that the music industry is a lot more cutthroat than most other industries.
Yeah.
Because for every one act that's making it out there, you've got probably 50 acts that are either struggling or they died out trying to make it, which I have no problem with that, but I'm one of those kind of people that believes in, what's the use of tearing other people down when it takes all kinds to make a scene. So rather than shove one or two acts down everybody's throat and then ignore the rest, which tends to happen in a lot of places, and the Central Valley's kind of right in there too.
Yeah, very much so.
Why not look at, put everybody out there and see what people naturally gravitate toward? Because there are going to be acts that are going to stand out, whether or not you like the people, and you have to understand that, you're not the only one that's out there. It's a dog-eat-dog world, and you're wearing milk-bone underwear.
Yeah, no kidding, right? All right, man. So let's take a break, and we'll come back, and we'll talk about your current project and what that entails, okay?
Okay.
All right, man. All right, so how are you feeling?
I'm feeling good, man. I have to admit, this is the first phone interview I've ever done. I've done some things on TV, but
oh wow,
never one like this. So this is nice to be able to kind of, not have to worry about certain restrictions and all that.
Oh, it's free for all, man. I'm telling you. I don't mean to sound callous, but I don't care what you say, don't care what you do. As long as you're having fun and I'm having fun, I think that's all that really matters right now.
You know what? That is exactly right. And there was a time in my life when I actually juggled two sort of careers. Not only was I doing music, but at one time I was also a part-time manager for a local wrestling federation, which takes a lot of microphone skill.
Oh, that is so awesome. Well,
yeah. Oh, yeah, man. And when I did the interview show with a guy named Jason Hastings, everybody was really surprised because most of the time you get people up there and they're dropping F-bombs and all sorts of racial epithets and stuff like that. I don't do that because I don't believe in it. It's kind of like, people might think that it's a slightly more boring interview because I'm not tossing off, F this and whatever. But I feel that if you have to resort to foul language just to have something to say, that shows not only the limits of your vocabulary, but also your intelligence.
Yeah, I've actually, the more that I've grown and aged and developed as a musician, the more I've realized that you don't need that in music.
Oh, yeah.
I really enjoy heavy music, but I personally do not use cuss words in my music because it makes me think about the music a lot more. It makes me think about what is a smart way of saying this certain word. And I've been asked multiple times, like, why don't you cuss? It's metal, you cuss. I was like, I really just want to have a challenge. I mean, you don't grow unless you challenge yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And that was one of the biggest things that I made sure about doing. Since I built my studio in 2012, I have not produced a song that had a cuss word in it. And
that's excellent.
Yeah, and it's
you
just...
deserve some kudos there, man.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. But like I said, it's just a challenge, and I think it's a fun challenge. It makes me think about what I'm saying, and it to me, it makes it more heartfelt. So it's really nice to have.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And you also have to remember that you have other people that are going to be out there watching you, and
yeah,
they may not necessarily be into that.
Yeah,
so you have to
and
be careful of your audience.
I completely understand that, and I actually have a bunch of people that are rooting for me for this podcast that have children, and if they want to show them what I'm doing, I don't want to have them have to worry about that. So on my front, I try to keep it clean.
Cool. I thoroughly appreciate that.
All right, man. So you actually you said that you worked as a commissioner for a wrestling federation. Please go into that.
I worked as a manager.
Oh, okay.
For a little over a year. It was about probably 15 months. The federation was a local one here. It was called North American Wrestling, and it was one of those federations that was simultaneously admired and repulsed, because there were some things within the company, when workers left to go to other federations and things. It seemed like as soon as they left the federation, they started talking all sorts of crap about, where they just came from.
Oh, that's bad.
But yeah, and I was brought in just as one of the main players. Tim Barrett was. He had been diagnosed with something very sick, and I had been brought in pretty much just after he passed away.
Oh, wow.
But Tim and I, and here's where the music part comes in. Tim and I actually were ex-bandmates in the first 80s band that I put together, which was called Weekend Warriors.
Okay.
And he was my original drummer. He ended up having to back out because of his illnesses. And we had talked about, being fans of professional wrestling, and he mentioned that he was one of the bookers and recruiters for a local federation. And just before, probably about a month or so before he passed away, he says, we talked about some of these guys that we knew coming in, and for whatever reason they weren't able to do it. He says, what about you? He says, we really need somebody to be strong as a manager, and you seem to have a lot of good skills, and you have the interest, because I used to watch wrestling as a kid. I kind of got out of it for a while after I got married. But I said, okay. I talked with my wife about it. She agreed it was something that I needed to help occupy my time at that point.
Nice.
So I went in, went to North American, talked to the owners, Brandon Haney, a.k.a. Red Rhino, and we got this idea for a character that transformed in short to an Italian manager with mafia ties.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it was fun. It was
Wow.
fun. I got a chance to manage a championship tag team and got to know some really good people. North American is on hiatus right now, but they have told me that when they start getting things going again, that they want me back in. So we'll have to see how that goes.
So was your
I might
character
be doing two things at once.
nice? Was your character in ring like bumps and stuff like that, or were you strictly the mouth?
I did go through training, and I did bumps, and my character was always seen with a cane, because I do actually have some walking issues in life. So I always had some form, one cane or another. So one of my gags would be to, I'd trip the wrestlers as they were bouncing off the ropes, hook it around their feet. I had one that I used as a trick cane. It was hollow. I would put like training powder inside, blow it in their face.
Oh, wow.
A couple of smaller canes that I had, I would actually kind of whack the guys with it. And so it was a lot of fun.
You, sir, are
Oh yeah. There was. I'm sure there's probably still footage on the YouTube. So, if you ever get a chance, go ahead and look it up.
what's funny is this morning I had an interview, and we talked about the Attitude Era of wrestling, and I didn't actually get into it, but for about 6 months, I actually did this whole backyard wrestling thing back when I was about 19 or 20. They had a full-fledged ring and everything, and we actually trained to try to make sure nobody got hurt, unnecessarily.
Right.
And it was a blast. It was creative. It was physical. It was most of the guys we bonded. It was just one of those things I regard it high in my life, and it was a blast to do. The only reason I stopped doing it is because I almost broke my wrist, and I couldn't do that because I'm a drummer. So I had to.
Yeah, that is one thing you have to watch out for, because if you, especially with what they call the backyard federations, usually those are the ones that don't really have the trainers, and they're kind of, to be honest, they're kind of frowned upon in most of the wrestling community, because they feel that it's that the backyard federation detract from the real sport and this and that and the other thing. And my thought is, if you have trainers that are properly licensed and everything to do it, it shouldn't matter what kind of a federation you have, as long as you are able to put on a good show. You're not embarrassing yourself, you're not embarrassing the sport, and you're not embarrassing other wrestlers by, doing bad tributes or something like that. As long as you're doing everything right, it shouldn't matter what kind of a federation you have, as long as people show up and you do what you're supposed to do and everybody has fun with it.
Yeah, but I mean, if Mick Foley hadn't sent the videos of him doing the backyard thing, he would have never got hired in the capacity he was in. So
exactly.
I mean, it's kind of hypocritical in that, and you see that in music, you see that in really anything, and it's a tragedy because people came from somewhere. They're just not popping up and instantly.
Exactly.
To come from somewhere, and it's a tragedy that people don't see that.
And that's exactly right, because if it hadn't been for the garage bands, people wouldn't be where they are today. Probably about 90% of the artists that are out there wouldn't be where they're at today. And a lot of people put down these shows that are coming on to try to make people instant stars, things like American Idol and The Voice and what have you. And those can be a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, it gives people a chance to do something that, they might not ever have a chance to do otherwise. I mean, they might be stuck in a garage or somewhere and not have a chance to really get the exposure to where people will notice them. But on the other hand, it gives a lot of people the wrong idea that, hey, all you have to do is just come on the show, and if you win, you become an instant star. You don't have to work at it. And, that's part of what's killing the music industry today. Between that and, I hate to say it, but with the internet and people being able to buy like one song for 99 cents.
Yeah, there's no money in that.
Back when I was a kid, if you wanted one specific song, you had to go and you had to buy the whole album to do it.
Or sit by the radio and press record when it came on the radio.
And hope that the DJ didn't talk through the song you were trying to record.
Exactly, man. It was terrible.
To tell the truth, I kind of miss some of those things. I don't miss the DJ interrupting people, but I miss a lot from those days. And I hope that people will get it in their heads to want to go back to some of that, want to put in, instead of being all synthesized and stealing other people's riffs, kind of like they do in rap and hip-hop, go in and put your own touch into things and actually show some originality, because if you don't have any original parts to you, it's kind of like, what's the point?
Yeah, I mean, any famous rock band, there's a bunch of them that are kind of, I guess you would call cookie cutter, that just have this formula that has been famous, will be famous, and continue to be famous. But then there's those guys like Eddie Van Halen with his guitar playing. I mean, back when Van Halen came out, nobody was doing that kind of stuff. It was insanity. And for people not to try to have their stamp on their music, it's really a tragedy. I mean, you should try to strive to be you. You can play a 4/4 beat, but in the end, you have to put on you have to put your flavor on it.
Exactly. And it's it's kind of this may be kind of ironic coming from a guy who's done a lot of cover bands and things, but if you're able to put your own original stamp on it, I think the rewards that you reap from it are much more gratifying than if you just go through and become basically a human jukebox. I mean, that might get you booked in more places, but after a while, most people feel that there's problems, it wears on them, they want to do something different, and then after a while, that's why people get out of things, because as fun as it can be, some people get tired of singing the same things and having to do the same stuff.
Yeah, exactly, and I can see where that's really, really terrible and boring. I mean, myself, when we were writing songs, we had a few popular songs, and we had to play those in every set. The problem was they got boring the way I had wrote them originally, so I would change them, and by 6 months later, the drums had so many different things in it, it was outrageous.
Right. Well, when I was with Steelgrave, when we put out the only album that they ever did, Sid would do a lot of the band's songs. He was the songwriter for the group. And when I came in, I explained to him that I also was a songwriter. So we got to comparing notes one time. And there was a song that he did called Down We Fall. And he explained that the song was good, but the lead singer could never get the words in to fit the music quite right. Something just, it was kind of like forcing a puzzle piece. It just didn't quite work.
Yeah.
So I had explained to him that there was a song that I had written for another group that I was briefly in called Steel Messiah, and he says, well, why don't you bring it and let's see what your words are like and if it fits. So I had converted the song that I had written to fit Down We Fall's music, and we ended up putting that on the album.
Oh, nice.
And that song actually ended up being out of the, what was it? We had 6 tracks on that album, and out of the 6, that was among the top 2 that started really getting played over satellite radio and internet radio and what have you.
Nice. Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
All right, so let's take a break. When we get back, we'll talk about more about what you're doing now, all right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I think I have to put my dogs out, though, because they keep trying to bark at the garage for some reason or other. Sure, no problem. Nero, outside. Nero, this way. Alex, come on, Sadie.
All right.
That's a bit better.
All right. Okay. There we go. Now the mic's working again. All right, man. So how you doing?
Doing good. Doing good.
All right. Is there anything else you want to talk about? I want to hit on the Meat Loaf tribute right now. When we come back.
Okay.
Yeah, we got off a little off topic, but hey, it's decent conversation, man.
Oh yeah, these things happen from time to time. That's part of what what makes the entertainment industry so entertaining.
Yeah. So, the Meat Loaf project, you put on Facebook and everything, looking for members. How'd that go?
It's going pretty good, actually. I started advertising for it back in probably late February, and people started responding, almost immediately. I mean, it was bits here and there, but the ones that responded, they said that they were excited to hear about something like this. They knew it was kind of an ambitious project, with it, with it being Meat Loaf's particular style. But he's considered a fairly ambitious artist to tackle. That's why there's not a lot of them around. I did my homework on it, and as far as specific tribute acts for Meat Loaf, there were only two that I came across. One is in New York, and the other one is a former act that was in Wales. But there was some sort of a discrepancy as to whether or not he was trying to pass himself off as the actual Meat Loaf, because Meat Loaf ended up suing the dude.
Oh, wow.
So he quit doing that. He said he went back to doing Elton John. I'm not thinking to myself, really? So.
All right, man. So, before you continue, why Meat Loaf? Is there a specific reason why you decided to take on this project, and specifically towards Meat Loaf?
Well, when you're doing a tribute act, you should be able to not only sound like the artist that you're trying to do the tribute to, but more often than not, it also requires that you have a look. And I'm 5'9" and roughly about 260 pounds. So with the way that I look, I'm not going to pass for like Bruce Springsteen or John Cougar or any of those guys.
Yeah.
And
gotcha.
the only other chubby artist that I know of that has halfway made it through his career has just been found guilty of all sorts of stuff over in England. So I don't think Gary Glitter would be the better choice.
All right.
So yeah. So as far as a look and things go, Meat Loaf is the artist that I most likely would be able to pass off, although more often than not I have been called Jack Black for some reason. I guess people think I look like him. I don't know.
So all right, so you're looking for people. Have you found anybody to fill the positions in the band yet?
Almost all of the positions actually have been filled.
Oh, awesome.
The main one that I'm waiting on is the keyboard player. And I did have somebody respond to that. It's a female player that I'm waiting on who's just new into the area. So
nice.
I need to check in with her and make sure she still feels that she can keep up with the material and stuff. But I've got everybody else lined up as far as I'm concerned. One thing that I kind of want to address is after I let it be known that I was looking for the last couple of key players, which at that time were the keyboard player and the female vocalist for the duets.
Yeah.
I received a response from somebody, and the response was, "Really, Meat Loaf? You really think people are going to pay to see a Meat Loaf act? I mean, with all of the other tribute acts around here, don't you think that's kind of silly?" And I mean, it's one thing if you're asking, out of seriousness because you don't know, but it's another thing to kind of put a negative spin on it, because there's far too many people out there that are trying to downplay other people.
Yeah.
And it drags the music scene down. And when I brought this kind of to the attention of the general music scene, and my question was, how would you respond to something like this? Most people took it for what it was, and they said, don't worry about it, ignore them, just do what you're going to do. There was one fellow that basically told me, shut up and quit being a baby and play my instrument. And
that's bull.
If that's not what I want to do, then go paint a flower or something. But
I don't understand that, man. I really don't.
Well, I don't either. I chalk it up to people just looking at things in a negative way and trying to, just choke off a potentially good idea.
Well, the sad part is I'm pretty sure the people doing this are the same people that say that the music scene in this area is garbage, and are the ones that are complaining and everything like that. I mean, it's granted, Tulare and Visalia and Fresno and Bakersfield and all the area in between where we live, it's not really a hotbed for metal acts, and it's not really LA or anything like that, but you can actually make a decent scene if you are together in that. I mean,
Exactly.
the fact is,
Exactly.
I saw the message that you posted about this asking, and me personally, I was appalled. I was like, this guy's just trying to have fun. I mean, it's Meat Loaf. I've never taken Meat Loaf seriously, and I'm going to be straightforward. I've never taken him seriously. I always thought he was just fun.
Oh, that's fine. A lot of people didn't. So when he ended up actually making it big, it was a big surprise to a lot of people in the community. And part of what made him as big of a phenomenon as he was the fact that he had a perfect songwriter behind him in Jim Steinman. Steinman came up with all this stuff, and he was a lot like, in a sense, I feel he was a lot like Led Zeppelin, in the sense that they kind of put things together that didn't really seem to work individually, and somehow they made them work.
Nice.
Because at the time that Meat Loaf and Steinman were coming in, somebody actually asked Jim Steinman if he knew how to write music. You're supposed to do it this way, this way, this way. You're sitting there bouncing all over the place, and how is that supposed to work? Well,
it works because it works.
Years later, take a look,
Well, that's the great thing about music. I mean, yeah, there are, things you should know to make it easier for you to write music. But for the most part, I mean, I feel like a 5-year-old when I'm writing music. I'm just sitting here going, will this work? Will this work? What's this do? Will this work? And it brings out the kid in me, and that's what's fun about it. I mean, I do take it seriously, but that's what's the fun about it. And
exactly.
if you can't have fun with it, and you can't be individual with it, then what the hell is the point?
Exactly. If it was just meant to be, A, B, C, then almost anybody could do it.
Yeah, and it takes really, really individual ideas to break through. And I told you before we started recording this, I've never even thought about doing covers. I was talked into doing one cover, which was Three Little Pigs by Green Jello, or Green Jelly. It was that one that they played on the radio. And we played it twice and never again. And
well, that one's not exactly the most difficult piece to play.
Well, it's not. It was fun. We invited everybody up on stage because we did a CD release party for our friends. And, it was fun for the time. But for me, the place where I shine is where I write music. Mm-hmm. And, like I said, the reason I wanted to do this interview, I don't know the first thing about, the cover band, tribute band scene. I mean, it just sounds really fun, but it's just not my thing. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys have got going on.
Well, that's one thing that a lot of people have said to me, that when they found out, because I haven't done a lot of advertising on this as far as really putting it out there, I do look at it as something that is going to be fun, and the musicians that I have assembled at this point have all said the same thing, that it's not only is it something that sounds fun, but it's also something that's a little different.
Yeah.
Because while we do have a lot of tribute acts in this area, excuse me, a lot of the acts are more mainstream as far as the music goes.
Yeah.
You've got like people that have played here recently. There was a Prince cover act, there was David Bowie, there was a Queen cover act. In the Valley itself, we have one that's at least one that's dedicated to Journey, another one that's dedicated to Stevie Nicks, and
really? I didn't
you have
know
all
that.
of these different artists that are popping up, and they are more mainstream, I think, in my personal opinion, than Meat Loaf is. Meat Loaf is kind of a little more radical because of the style of music that he does.
Yeah.
So, and again, with a tribute act, you also have to take into account, when you have somebody that's singing, what look can they give? So, I think that once this really starts getting off the ground, I think that it's going to take off. It's going to be a lot of fun, not just for us performing it, but I think that the audience will enjoy it as well.
All right, so have you guys practiced yet? Have you gotten together and started working on getting the material down?
Not as of yet, but we have discussed the material as far as what we want to do at this point.
Okay.
And I'm looking at securing a practice space. Once that happens, we'll be looking at starting practice and really starting to get things down. And hopefully, by the time that summer rolls around, we'll be able to really start getting out there and getting the gigs booked.
All right, so before I continue with a few more questions, what is the difference between a cover band and a tribute band?
A cover band does covers of a lot of different artists.
Okay.
Max Headroom would be an excellent example of that, because they cover 80s, but they do a lot of different songs from different 80s artists. A tribute act usually is one geared specifically toward the music and the look of one specific artist.
Okay.
And that is the main difference.
So you're actually going to be dressing up like Meat Loaf in his videos and everything?
I'm going to be doing everything I can to look like the guy.
Oh, that's so awesome.
I've usually gone with short hair, so I'm trying to grow it out a little bit. I may end up having to get a wig or do extensions or something, but it's a lot of it's just going to depend.
I love the dedication. I love it.
Looks throughout the years.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he started off looking almost like a long-haired, chunky hippie, and now he looks like a short-haired, almost like a weathered cowboy type look to the face. So.
All right. So did you actually did you see his part in the Rocky Horror Picture Show?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Did you see Meat Loaf's part in Rocky Horror Picture Show?
I was actually part of a couple of the casts up in Sacramento.
Oh, really?
For the Rocky Horror Picture Show. So yeah, I'm pretty well versed. In fact, that's one of the songs that we're talking about doing.
Oh,
in
awesome!
The act is Hot Patootie.
Oh, nice. So have you seen Tenacious D in the Pick of Destiny?
I have not actually, but I have heard about it. It's something that I would definitely look into. And as I was doing some online research earlier, I found out that there was a movie, I guess, where Meat Loaf played Jack Black's dad.
Yeah,
so
that's Pick of Destiny.
Yeah, I'll have to take a look at it.
The funny part is that was the first time he had done a musical part in a movie since Rocky Horror Picture Show.
That wouldn't surprise me. I've seen some of Meat Loaf's acting, and a lot of the movies that he was in, he was usually cast as like one of the over-the-top characters.
Yeah.
Like the movie Black Dog, where he was the what was he? It was like a gun runner / preacher type person, and he was totally over the top, and it was perfect for him.
That was the one with Patrick Swayze, right, where he was a truck driver?
Yeah, and Patrick Swayze and Randy Travis. Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually a really good movie, man. That was a great movie.
It was one of the better ones that he's been in.
Yeah, Pick of Destiny actually has it's got them singing along with Meat Loaf has a cameo in there, and then Dio has a cameo in there. And,
wow, that must have been just before he died.
I think it was 2010, possibly. Maybe earlier. I don't know the time frame, but yeah, both of them are on the same song, and it's I think it's amazing. So
interesting.
Yeah, if you can check it out.
Look that up.
So you said that you want to practice. You're getting the practice space and everything, and you're aiming for a summer debut.
I would like to debut within the summertime. Yeah, if everything works out correctly, I've been checking out some of the practice spaces, finding out the information, and it's just a question of what will give the best bang for the buck, so to speak.
All right. Well, what are your plans for the future after that? After the debut, are you going to try to record anything from this, or is it just strictly going to be live shows and fun kind of deal?
Well, at this point, I would have to concentrate more on the live shows, but hopefully within the next couple of years, if this actually pans out and works, I would like to get enough money together to where I can put an actual album of my own material out.
Oh, nice.
So, I mean, that's where my ultimate goal has been, since I decided that I wanted to stick with music. I want to become a recording artist, and if I do no more than record one album, at least I'll have that to be able to say that I did it.
Have you ever thought about trying to build maybe a home recording studio setup?
That has been talked about, but it would have to be bits at a time, simply because technology in music is advancing all the time, and unfortunately, so are the prices. And I hate to say it, but money has always been a factor, and I'm sure a lot of people would say the same thing. So, when I can afford to do it and when I have the right place to do it, then it'll get done, and I'll be able to take more firm control of my musical destiny, so to speak.
Well, I do have to tell you this. Having a home recording studio is one of the greatest things you can do as a musician. I've been lucky enough to be able to figure out a way to do the home recording studio process. My initial investment was less than $3,000, and I have everything I need to record a real album. And if by all means, man, if you're able to do that and you've got the drive to record your own, do it, man. You will not regret it at all.
That's what I've heard. I have my oldest friend who lives up in Oregon. We ended up going to a grade school together and most of middle school. He has his own recording studio, and he's recorded for a lot of other people. He's finally gotten around to start doing his own recordings because he does some songwriting himself, and I'm very happy to talk to him for advice and things. He and I have kind of talked about different things musically, and even though he and I do different styles of music, we both agree that it's a wonderful thing, and when he's able to give me advice on things, I'm happy to listen to him.
Yeah.
It's just a question of, when am I going to be able to actually apply it? And it's just like anything else in life. You can't make the scene if you don't have the greens. So when it gets there, then things will start happening a little bit better and a little more firmly in control. But for right now, I'm just kind of taking things one step at a time.
I completely understand. Right now, I'd like to take another break, and then when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more. All right?
Awesome.
All right, man. Before we get back into it, it's about the 52-minute mark. It's coming up to the 51 mark. Did you want to talk about anything else? Did you want to wrap up? I mean, did you want people to know how to get a hold of you? Anything like that?
Yeah, I can give some contact information, and we can go ahead and look at wrapping it up, or however you want to do it. I know most interview shows like this usually go, I think, an hour, so I don't want to run you over.
Hey, honestly, with Heavyfoot, we lasted. It was an hour and a half. The one this morning was about an hour and 15 minutes. If you have more to talk about, man, by all means, go ahead. It's just. I'm really going off the cuff here, and I don't really want to, screw it up.
Sure.
So yeah, if you have anything you want to talk about, I just, give me a heads up, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, man. Well, yeah. So, where can people get a hold of you?
People can get a hold of me through Facebook. I have most of my contact information there. As soon as I have everything in the works, I will be creating a page for the tribute, which at this time, unless I hear otherwise, I figure probably will be under the name Bat Outta Hell, O-U-T-T-A, instead of Out Of, because Jim Steinman did get that patented, so I don't want to be stepping on anybody's toes.
Yeah, no kidding. So it's Bat Outta Hell?
Yeah, O-U-T-T-A.
Okay.
Unless I hear otherwise, and if I do, then I will make appropriate changes and let people know accordingly.
Okay. And again, is there anywhere? Are you going to be releasing music for this? on the internet once you get established? I mean, I don't really know the laws or rules about that yet.
Yeah, I will. As soon as I have gigs that are booked and and I have some footage recorded, then yes, I will be releasing that onto YouTube for people to be able to see and peruse. As long as I make sure that it is properly labeled as a tribute act and not trying to pass it off as, just under the name Meat Loaf and whatever the song is, because
Okay.
that's where a lot of people get wrapped up because of BMI and ASCAP.
Yeah.
They try to make sure that stuff gets blocked because of royalty issues. So you have to be very specific with how you post it.
Okay.
So as long as you make sure that you acknowledge that you do not own any of the rights to the song, that you are a tribute act or a cover band or whatever, then usually it's not as difficult.
All right, man. And before we go, what is your favorite song that you're looking forward to performing with this band?
I've actually thought about that myself, and to be honest, I don't know that I can pick just one, because there are several Meat Loaf songs that I like.
All right.
I love Hot Patootie from the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Nice.
I love 2 Out of 3 Ain't Bad. That was probably
Okay.
the first Meat Loaf song that I really ever learned.
All right.
Paradise by the Dashboard Light. There was one that was written for him on one of his later albums called Do It, which has a very hard rock / almost metal sound to it.
Nice.
So I mean, he spans a lot of different sounding styles, and I'm looking forward to exploring each one, because the more that I can expand and the more that I can look at different styles, the more well-rounded of a performer I become.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. Before we go into the next section, when I wrap up, stay on the line so I can wrap up with you without recording. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So we're wrapping up now, and is there anything else you would like to say before you get we leave you?
Well, I would say thank you for having me on, and to anybody that's listening out there, keep your eyes open and your ear to the sub-ether, because sooner or later, Bat Out of Hell is going to be coming at you, and I hope you're ready, because we sure plan to be.
That is awesome, man. Thank you very much for your time. It's been wonderful talking to you, and good luck. Keep me informed about this, all right, man?
Most definitely.
All right, brother. Later.
You bet.
So that was the Wayne Hamilton interview. Very interesting. I feel very, very fortunate. I feel very fortunate to have talked to him so early on in his proceedings for this band. And I also feel very fortunate to have had that very early on in the podcast, because it was very fun to talk to him. I mean, this guy knows music, and he knows that he wants to have fun with it. I mean, I don't want to offend Wayne. Please don't take it as such, buddy, because really, you're an inspiration. But I think you have to have some level of not taking yourself so seriously to be able to pull off an act such as a Meat Loaf tribute band. And that right there is one of the things that music is lacking, considering everybody wants to be famous. They want to make it a career and all of those things. Sometimes you just forget to have fun, and it's a tragedy, because music is fun and it's a blast, and some of the best times in your life could be playing music just by yourself in a room or on stage or in front of your parents or something like that. It's just music is fun. So Wayne, you are an inspiration to me, because it takes a certain kind of person to be able to pull off Meat Loaf, and I think you're the guy to do it, man. I really do. Now, as of right now, the band has not yet made a Facebook page, and there are no other social media pages. Every once in a while, Wayne will give an update on the band proceedings. I believe currently Monday, April 6th, I think, which is release date of these podcasts, Wayne will actually be having his first practice with the band as a whole. Don't quote me on it because I read it partially on Facebook. Get to Wayne and ask him about his proceedings. He hasn't given me any updates yet, which is sad, but I know how busy it is trying to start a band, so no points taken off for Wayne. I will make an update when things start to have some movement and Wayne starts to gain some momentum for this band. Do you think it's out of the realm of possibility that I can actually get him a bat signal made for the band as a present because he's been so cool and was on the show? If you know a guy, let me know. Extra points if the guy is from a place called Gotham. With that, I take my leave. Thank you all for listening, and thank you all for the support. Please remember to rate, comment, subscribe, and add the Local Music Revolution at thelocalmusicrevolution.wordpress.com and facebook.com/thelocalmusicrevolution. Also, I'm on iTunes. You can find the podcast by going to the search in the podcast portion of the store and typing in the Local Music Revolution. I should pop up. If I don't, then we need to have a talk with iTunes. Also, if you are a musician, an actor, a director, or an artist, or someone with similar talents, I would really like to interview you and have you on the show and possibly crack some jokes and have a good time. For that, please email me at thelocalmusicrevolution@gmail.com and we'll get the process started for you to be on the show. Until next time, this is the Local Music Revolution. I am Ogre. You are my audience. Take care, everyone. Be good.